Welcome, and how are you doing? I hope that you are having a fantastic day. We're going to talk about cryptocurrency investing for beginners. This is an AI algorithm for buying and selling Bitcoin. So before I get into this, let me tell you a little bit about myself, because this is an algorithm that I'm writing and I'm currently working on. Just so that you know, I have 20 years in the computer industry. I have worked for all kinds of different big situations, big firms. I worked for the state government in Oregon on the Affordable Care Act. I worked for one of the baby bells up in Wisconsin. I've worked for several different pharmaceutical companies on projects at pharmaceutical companies that had to do with clinical trials. I even did some work for Duke University on one of their clinical trials systems. And so I've been on projects. In fact, the project I was on for the state of Oregon had over 200 consultants, so I was one of a group of many. And other projects that I've worked on, we've had, as few as 5 or 6 or 7 of us working on that project. So all kinds of different sizes, some of them extremely critical, and some of them less critical, but all of them are critical to our clients that I've worked with in the past. And so I tell you that not because I want to brag, but I want to give you a little bit of background, since I am going to talk about an AI algorithm that I'm working on. This is a little bit more information about me. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is my opinion. I am not smarter than you. You are smarter than you realize. Do not trust what I say. Do your own research. And when it comes to any kind of investing, whether it's cryptocurrency or the stock market or real estate or something else entirely that I've never mentioned and maybe I don't even know about in order to mention it, always do your own research, because it's involving your money, and that's something that's precious to you, and nobody's going to do a better job researching it out than you will, because you have a vested interest in making sure that it turns a profit and that it's successful for you and your family. So in my series that I do on cryptocurrency investing for beginners, I always start out with this chart. And the main reason why I want to start out with this chart is there's been a lot of people that have lost money with cryptocurrency. And I want you to understand one of the basic principles, one of the most important principles that you want to take advantage of so that you do not lose money with cryptocurrency. And that's what this chart tries to drill in. It provides you with factual information. And unfortunately, a lot of the times when people are losing money with cryptocurrency, it's because they're making decisions on emotion, primarily fear of loss, fear of losing their money. So if you took $1,000 and you bought Bitcoin and then 3 years later sold your Bitcoin, how much money would you make? If you bought on January 1, 2017, you bought $1,000 of Bitcoin and then sold it October 10th, 2019. Now, that's not a full 3 years. December 31st would have made it a full 3 years. But you were selling it a couple of months early. You still would have made you would have had $8,640 when you sold your Bitcoin. And so that is a fantastic return on your investment. In 3 years, you've ended up multiplying your initial investment by 8 times. You've got 8 times that amount of money. That is fantastic when it comes to investing. And when you look at the rest of these 3-year periods from 2016, 15, 14, 13, 12, and 11, there is not a single time when you would have lost money. In fact, the worst return on your investment would have been $1,180. That is still an 18% return. And if you were investing money in the S&P 500, its average annual return is around 9%. And so that's better than the stock market's S&P 500 Well, it's comparable. I shouldn't say it's better. It's actually a little bit less than the average of 9%. So it's not, and it's far better than what you get in most banks. Most banks are not even going to give you 1% over that 3-year period. And so 1% might be, instead of $180, you might have made $30 or something. So anyway, as you noticed, I'm sure this has gotten your attention. I would hope so, that by now you noticed that from 2011 to 2013, you would have made $2.6 million. Now, that happened early on with Bitcoin. The question I'm left with is, will it happen again in the future? Will there be an opportunity that in a 3-year time period, you can take $1,000 and see it grow to 2.6 million? What I'm about to say is my opinion, and it may be 100% wrong, but I think the answer is possibly. And here's why. If you look at a graph of things that went through adoption by the masses, when you're down in the very, very early days when almost nobody is using that thing, the growth is not that spectacular. The growth comes as that curve skyrockets almost straight up. Well, let me give you an example. Today, over 60-70% of the world's population uses the internet. But back in 1995, 0.4% of the world was involved with the internet. And today, approximately 0.4% of the world is involved in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And so when we go from 0.4 to closer to that 60% mark, we're going to see astronomical growth. And will that happen? Yes, it will. Just look at the Central Bank of China. The Central Bank of China is coming out with their own cryptocurrency, and it's going to be released according to what the government of China has said. It should come out sometime early 2020. It might even come out 2019. They haven't given a specific date, but they've already finished all of the software for it from the government's perspective. And now what they're working on is getting some of their merchants set up so that they can accept and transact using the Central Bank of China's cryptocurrency. That alone will take us from 0.4% adoption to, I don't know, 20%. I mean, the China has, 1.7 billion people, or 2 billion people are in China. I mean, I don't know the actual percentages, but it's a good portion of the world. That alone will take cryptocurrency from almost nobody to a large portion of the world. And with China doing that, the rest of the civilized world, in fact, even some of the third world countries are way ahead of the game. You've got all kinds of countries. Right now, the Central Bank of China is not the only government that's getting involved in the cryptocurrency game. There's over, I think the last number I heard was somewhere around 9 different governments around the world have announced that they're introducing some kind of a cryptocurrency, some kind of internet money that they're making available to the world. And so we're on the verge of something that could explode quite dramatically. And so is it possible that we could see another 3-year period where the growth goes for $1,000 all the way up to 2.6 million? I think it's possible, but that's my opinion. Do your own research and come to your own conclusions. You may feel the same way. Anyway, when it comes to writing an algorithm for Bitcoin, one of the most important things to me, especially given this chart, if all I do is buy Bitcoin, hold it for 3 years, and I'm making money, then I don't want to write an algorithm that does worse than if you just bought Bitcoin and held on to it, because that would be ridiculous. Don't even mess with that algorithm. It's not worth your time and effort. And so the first challenge is to improve on hodling Bitcoin. HODL means hold on for dear life. That's what HODL stands for. Hold on for dear life. And so hodling Bitcoin, and sometimes with Bitcoin, it is an emotional roller coaster. If you hold on to Bitcoin long enough, I've had times where my Bitcoin investment was down 70% from what I originally took out of my bank account and put into Bitcoin. And that becomes kind of an emotional roller coaster. So I know that sometimes emotions go crazy, but I show you this to say, hey, there's times when you want to listen to your emotions and run, and there's other times when you're afraid of losing your money, but you just need to be steady and hold firm to your commitment. It's not yet time to run. And with Bitcoin, my recommendation is make a 3-year commitment. In fact, I want you to get even stronger on your commitment, and I want you to do your own research. So let me show you where I got the numbers that produced this chart. If you go over here to Yahoo Finance, and so the web address is simply finance.yahoo.com. So it's finance.yahoo.com. Pretty simple. And when you go to that, you'll start out somewhere around here, and you can just simply type in BTC, for example, and then you'll see all these different choices. Pick Bitcoin USD. And when you click on that, you're going to come to this page. And if you want to look at the chart that I was just at, just click on the chart. And it'll take you to this charting page. Or you can go and look at historical data. The historical data is really how I came up with the calculations that you see here. And so when you go to the historical data, you can download the daily prices of Bitcoin, and you can see what the open price was, what the close price was, what the highest price, and what the lowest price for any day all the way back to day one of Bitcoin. And so that's where I got my information. You can come here, it's free, and you can get the same information and the same numbers. Or if you like looking at it visually, in fact, I recommend that you always spend a little bit time looking at it visually, because looking at these charts definitely help you understand the highs and the lows that will be encountered with Bitcoin. Because, if you look at, say, this 5-year chart, you can see it was all the way down here, and then all of a sudden it shoots way up to $20,000. And then from $20,000, it drops down here to $3,400, and then back up to, this peak was around $14,000. If I can hit that, that's not quite it. Can I get over one more pixel? Anyway, it's not showing the 14,000, because this one here actually hit 14,000. So somehow this particular chart is rounding it off. Oh, we're on a weekly interval. And so the week is not showing that particular detail. But bottom line is, it's a roller coaster ride. And so you need to be prepared to hold on for dear life and not let your emotions run away from you. You need to have a 3-year commitment to doing this. In the history of Bitcoin, you never would have lost money if you held on for 3 years. Now, will that transpire in the future? We don't know. As they say in these disclaimers for real estate and in all kinds of different investing, stock investing, past results are no indication of future performance. In no event should the content of this video be construed as an express or implied promise or guarantee. And so while these numbers happened in the past, they're definitely not a promise or a guarantee that they'll happen in the future. But I want you to understand the mindset that you really should have with Bitcoin, because a lot of people have lost money with Bitcoin, but those are people that did not hang on to it for 3 years. If they had hung on to it for 3 years, they would have come out ahead. At least to today. In 5 years, 10 years, will that still be the case? My personal opinion, the answer would be yes, but we won't know that until it's written in the history books. We won't know for sure, because it's definitely possible it could go a lot lower. Anyway, all of that aside, The challenge is to improve on holding on for dear life. November 14th, 2014, Bitcoin was $428. November 14th, 2019, this is a 5-year gap, Bitcoin was $8,605. So a $10,000 invested for 5 years would have been worth $200,717 from just a $10,000 investment over a 5-year period. Now you may be asking yourself, why am I going over these numbers? All of a sudden I've jumped from 3 years to 5 years. Well, the reason is because that's what I've used for my algorithm. I wanted to have enough years in testing and back testing my algorithm to get a really good idea, is this going to be profitable, and have I actually improved on hodling Bitcoin versus my algorithm. And so let me show you this chart. This chart is that 5-year period that we're talking about. We're going from that peak of $20,000 all the way down to today, starting all the way back on 2014. And so this chart represents all the way back to 2014. And when we zoom in on the numbers, you see these little triangles. So this is how my algorithm is currently performing. On the green triangle, my algorithm says buy Bitcoin. And on the red triangle, my algorithm was saying sell Bitcoin. And so you can see it bought Bitcoin on this bar right down here. So it bought it down here. It ran all the way up into here. And when it hit this bar, the algorithm decided that it wanted to sell Bitcoin on that bar. And so you can see that, and the algorithm is just running on complex math equations. And so it sold on this bar up here, and we can see all of this volatility. My algorithm was not invested in Bitcoin all the way down to this point. It made a decision at this point to reinvest in Bitcoin. And then on this bar, it fluctuated, and so it might have lost a little bit of money. It depends on exactly what time of day you bought on this day and what time of day you sold here. But it might have lost a little bit of money. On this trade, it looks like it lost a chunk more. But overall, I'm really, really pleased with the look of this. You know, you can see here, let's actually, this is this year, 2019. And you can see in April of 2019, as we had that great big run from this mark here is $4,000. We had actually dropped earlier in the year to, around 3,500. But I wanted to share this with you. It's on this mark at 4,000. It decides to get into Bitcoin, and then it sold it right here on this tick. As it dropped down, it waited until it got to this point, and it held it all the way up to this $9,000 price range. And then as Bitcoin continued to climb, it got back in right here, and Bitcoin goes all the way up to right almost at the $14,000 mark. You can see it's just shy of 14,000. And then when it dropped down to here, my algorithm decided to sell it again, and then it buys it here. And so here's the bottom line. When you look at all of these different numbers for all of these different points, you look at all the different green ones here and green ones here. You can see a green one where it's buying and a red where it's sold, green and red together. So there was almost no change there. In a lot of these cases, it's picking up the upward trend and getting out during the downward trend. It got out here and it didn't get back in until all the way down in here. And so I'm really pleased. I'm not 100% there. This is not something, I'm sharing my chart with you. I'm not going to share the algorithm. The algorithm is not ready for prime time. It's not ready for other people to be investing in it. I just wanted to share with you what I'm kind of working on behind the scenes, and kind of give you some info. So during that period of time, if you held on to Bitcoin for dear life, it would have been worth $200,000. With my algorithm, These are early results, but currently my proprietary artificial intelligence algorithm would have returned $607,000 during that same 5-year time period. And the majority of the money that it's gaining is because it got out of the market on these great big drops, jumps back in, picks up another gain, picks up another gain, picks up another gain, picks up all of these gains, and is out of the market on a lot of these downturns. And there's enough of the downturns that it got out of the market and enough of these upturns that it was actually able to outperform just simply holding on for dear life. And it actually tripled the amount of money. Instead of $200,000, it was able to return $607,000 on a $10,000 investment over a 5-year period. And so the early results I'm really, really pleased with. I need to do some more work on it before it's ready for prime time. And you guys are the first people to even know that this thing exists, but I think things are looking pretty good. Now, my question for you, how can I be of service to you? You know, when it comes to life and big companies and, you know, how do I say this best? Recently, I was listening to somebody that I trust and I have a lot of respect for in the stock market. He used to work on Wall Street, and he was talking about Wall Street and New York Stock Exchange starting up the backed exchange, and how 2019 is going to be the year of Wall Street greed when it comes to cryptocurrency, and how Coinbase is seeing over $1 billion. Yes, I said $1 billion with a B. Coinbase is seeing $1 to $2 billion per month from institutional money buying Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. But I say other cryptocurrencies kind of lightly because the Coinbase article pretty much implied almost 100% of that money, like in the 90 percentile, is going into Bitcoin. And so when institutional money has such a strong interest in Bitcoin, you know, the New York Stock Exchange spent 4 years, $400 million in a joint venture between the New York Stock Exchange, Microsoft, and Starbucks. You couldn't think of 3 larger companies. I mean, those are huge companies in the United States to be involved in a cryptocurrency exchange, and yet they are. And they've made announcements how they're coming out with a cryptocurrency phone application that you'll be able to use and buy and sell stuff right from your phone. And since Starbucks is involved, you know, one of the first things it'll probably be used for is to go and buy coffee with at Starbucks. And so I really do think things are about to explode. Anyway, I'm getting off track. How can I be of service to you? Do you have questions? Did anything that I say, did I not go into enough detail and you want more information about it? You know, whatever it is. If you disagree with what I'm saying, maybe you don't think Bitcoin is going to go and explode, and you have a good reason why you feel that way, share it below. How I grow, how you grow is by us disagreeing, and if we can have a polite disagreement, both of us can come out learning something from the other person. You know things that I don't know. I know things that you don't know. And when we share that information, both of us will grow and be better for it. In the meantime, I hope that you'll like, subscribe, and hodl. Have a fantastic day.